Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Sorry we're starting a few minutes late, but my name is Scott Bowles, and I'm the city's retail strategist and business development coordinator in the Mayor's Office of Economic Development. I'd like to start off by welcoming you all to the second annual Retail Town Hall. Tonight we're going to be able to talk about where we're at with retail right now as a city, but also we have with us Jonathan Springmeyer. John, if you could stand up real quick. He's going to be talking to us tonight about retail incentives. And we'll have you give a small bio about who you are. But also we have some of representatives from our local shopping centers who will be able to come in and give some updates about what they're doing. And we'll have some time at the end for some question and answer. So if you have any burning questions during it, I invite you to ask, but keep your questions limited towards the end so we can make sure that, I know this is slated for 2 hours, but I'm sure none of you want to sit here for 2 hours and talk about retail tonight. But to start off tonight's presentation, yesterday the Mayor's Office sent out a Provo Pulse survey with about 10 questions directly related to retail. And in about a 12-hour period, we got about 1,000 respondents. So we thought this would be some good icebreakers to talk about what you as Provo residents are feeling right now about retail. So we asked about our largest retail outlet, which is the Provo Town Center, our regional shopping mall. We asked you and said, what would make it a better shopping experience? Lots of you said that you want better anchor stores, followed by additional shopping, outdoor recreation and gathering spaces, more food options, some more community events and activities, some amenities for children, some updated decor, and you guys weren't actually really super excited about signage. I don't understand. So everyone knows where it is, so great. But we also asked, and Dustin from our finance office is going to talk a lot about this, is sales tax. We just got done wrapping up a budget season, and that always seems to be a number that's really important. But when we look at our budget, what do you think the percentage of the general fund, how much of it comes from sales tax? Just throw out a number. What percentage? What do you think it is? 30%. 30%. Anybody else? 40%? Well, people thought it was about 41%, and I'm not going to tell you the answer, because that Dustin gets to do that. I'm not going to steal Dustin's thunder right now. But Provo residents think about 41%. So when we ask you as a body, what retail accomplishment is most important to you? What's going to make you feel happy about retail development? And downtown Provo is still very much in the hearts and minds of the Provo resident. You want to see more boutique-style offerings in downtown, but also you want to see the Provo Town Center be revitalized. But right across the street, equally, you want to see the East Bay Shopping Center with some more options for shopping. Some of you, as is heard, with the desire for more offerings on the west side of Provo, but also more restaurant food options. But when you're shopping, and this is what, especially when we get to our representatives of shopping centers, like what matters most to you as a consumer in your shopping experience? What you really care about is offerings, right? The products that you're going for. But look at the difference between price and offerings. That's a pretty substantial gap. Location matters. Experience, doesn't really matter that much to you. Service, what's wrong with you guys? Come on, it's service. So, but I want you to look at this. So when we talk about this tonight, you're really starting to get to understand what we as Provo consumers are looking for. You really care about the products and services that you're going for. But experience and service, it's not very high up.
Even if they're rude, if they have what I want, I'll get it.
That's right. But parking, I want you to also look. So you want stuff in downtown, but parking doesn't seem to be an issue. I think anyone who deals with downtown would say that's a lie. So parking is an issue. I think it depends where you're parking at. I think that matters. But this is a question that also goes with sales tax. How important is it to you to shop in Provo? And I'll quickly go through these. It looks like it's moderately important to, somewhat. You're kind of in the middle there. And this is why. So if we say, well, how often do you do it? I will be the first to say about half, right? I shop about half in. Mayor Curtis and I may have bumped into each other in Orem. I'm just saying, it happens sometimes. We just find ourselves, GPS takes us, oh no, I'm in Orem. Oh, they have Costco, right? Okay. Always 3%. Hey, that's great. Most of the time, 34. About halvesies, but the majority of us, because Provo just doesn't have some things that we need. The never? Come on, guys. No. I don't know about that. You tell me where you can get a soccer ball, and then we'll talk. But I just wanted to use that as to break the ice, kind of get you thinking. Start thinking about retail, because we got some great speakers for you tonight. And we hope that while you're thinking, you're listening, start thinking of some questions. If you have anything that's burning inside of you and you want to know, we've got a great panel of people up here that are ready to take your questions. So I will now turn some time over to Mayor John Curtis.
Thank you, Scott. This evening is a result of Scott's efforts, as well as much of what you'll see tonight. So I hope you'll all find an opportunity to tell Scott how much you appreciate him in all the work that he does here in the city. And that extends to really all of our economic development and redevelopment departments in the city. Just great work. So I promised a number of you that I would start by telling you what happened to my arm. And I've told you it's a story you're not going to believe, but I would not lie. Really. So I was out helping this lady who had a flat tire on the side of the road, and this school bus went by full of kids, and it was evident that it had lost its brakes. So I chased it down, and just as it was getting to this S-curve where it was going to over a cliff, I just reached out and grabbed the back of that bumper and held that there until I could get some help to get that school bus back on the road. You don't believe it, do you? No. So I was at my mom's house, and there was a dryer in the driveway, and I've said to myself, I can lift that dryer up. So I reached down to pick it up and put it in my truck, and heard this pop, and tore the tendon off the bone right here. And the tendon won't heal by itself, so it has to be surgically replaced. Amazingly, it's the same injury that Corey Norman in my office had a few months ago, and Matt Snyder downstairs in Provo City had a few months ago. So a warning, just those of you that are getting a little bit older, don't lift anything. Let somebody else do it. Well, let me jump right into this. I want to show you this timeline because I think it's pretty relevant. It was February where we held our first retail town hall meeting. How many of you were here in this room in February, a year ago February? Just a few of you. This is what's really pretty remarkable. Since we had that meeting, what we want to show you has happened since February on this timeline. And as sure as we've tried to get everything on here, I'm sure we've missed a few things. Let's see, is this a laser? Nope, we just turned it off. Is there a laser on here? I don't dare push anything now. There, okay, there's a laser. So here we were in February. July, we opened up the bakery. Have you been to this bakery downtown? It's delicious. That opened up in July. In October, the Mighty Baker opened up. If you haven't been there, that's delicious. It's right across from the library. In May, excuse me, I should be going through this like this. The staff attended an ICSC Global Retail Conference in Las Vegas. It's the first, is it right to say that's the first one, at least in many years, that we had attended, which was an important move. When we met last February, we told you we were going to put a little heavier emphasis on the retail side of economic development, and that was part of that effort. Have you been into the At Home? That opened in September in the East Bay area. Raise your hand if you've been into that store. Oh, good, that's quite a few of you. Were you, like me, surprised when you went in there at how nice it was and the product offering? If you haven't been in there, let me encourage you to pop in there and take a look at it. Rockwell Ice Cream. Have you been into Rockwell Ice Cream? Yes, good, thumbs up, amazing ice cream. In a very short window of time, we opened up 3 ice cream stores in our downtown area. Okay, February, let's see, let me start here in January. January, the Sweet Tooth Ferry, this is a big deal, opened up in downtown Provo. Fruita Crush, and if you haven't been into Fruita Crush and Sweet Tooth Ferry, you may have heard of Sweet Tooth Ferry, but Fruita Crush is right there on the old hookah store, right there on 3rd West and Center. A nice little surprise if you go in there and try that out. February, Brixton Capital purchases the Provo Town Center Mall. I can't tell you how significant this is. Scott, is that a fair statement? Scott's our manager there. The previous owner, although good, really didn't invest in this mall the way it needed to be invested in. I don't want to be harsh, but these new owners were really excited about what's happening down there, and we'll spend a few more minutes on that here in a minute. March, Good Time. Have you been into Good Time? And Roll With It is an ice cream place inside Good Time. It's a great little place to eat in the downtown area if you haven't been in there. Marley's is now downtown, and right there by the Marriott Hotel. In May, the staff went back to the ICSC Global Retail Conference in Las Vegas. I always pronounce this wrong. Chad, Oregano? Oregano. I don't do very well at Italian. Opened up downtown. Cafe on Fire, have you been in there? That's a brand new restaurant in our downtown area, just opened up several weeks ago. June, Sub-Zero opened up. That's an amazing building. They've gone in there and renovated it. You can actually climb up some steps and get up on a second level and eat your ice cream looking out over the new LDS temple. If you haven't been in there, I'd encourage you to go in there. Joe Vera's moved and opened up a new place. Had lunch there today, and that's a great place. That's a lot, isn't it? A lot is happening in our city. What did we miss? Is there one more slide, Scott? Okay, so we missed the mix. March. Thank you. West Point Capital Partners purchases Plumtree Plaza. It's called The Mix. You'll hear more about that tonight as well. Really exciting. Dustin?
My name is Dustin Grable. I'm the budget officer for Provo City, and I've been asked just to share some high-level information about some of the sales tax numbers that the city sees. So here, this is a graph of the sales tax numbers since the previous retail town hall. You'll notice that our sales tax is trending upward over time, and that there are a few key months that the numbers were elevated. Over time, you can see that there's actually a relatively large trend in this slow but steady increase in sales tax revenues. You also notice that there are some months that tend to be higher than others. Part of those has to do with seasonality. Part of it also, some of the establishments only report or collect sales tax quarterly, so there's some timing effects in some of it. But particularly these most recent months at the end, you can see this March number that came in very recently and affected the budgeting process that we just completed in Provo City. We adopted a budget just last week. And I wanted to share with you kind of this quarterly numbers. You can see the quarterly numbers since 2013 are very strong, but you can see also that there is some seasonality and that Provo City is doing well. And I think I wanted to convey to you some of the impacts of sales tax within the city. Here you can see that number is actually 26%, it's not 41. 26% of our sales tax, of our general fund revenues, so these are funding things like police, fire, parks, 26% of it comes from sales tax. That's the largest portion of any of our revenues. It's an important aspect. It's to have a diversified income, and particularly that last month's income of sales tax affected the budgeted numbers that we presented to the City Council. The City Council elected to lower and then eventually eliminate the property tax portion of the budget document and our budget proposal. And part of the solution to closing the gap that presented was because our sales tax numbers were up. We're actually trending at about 3% above last year for our current budget. And how that affects the city is that when you buy something in Provo, there are two places that the city portion of that sales tax go. Well, two ways that gets reallocated. So the sales tax divided among multiple entities, but of the portion that goes to cities is divided in half. Half of it is allocated to the city based on the point of sale. So if you buy something in Provo versus Orem, half of the sales tax that any city will generate is given directly to the city where you buy it. So if you buy more in Provo, Provo City will see more money, and that will help to go fund things like police, fire, parks, the building we're standing in right now. Also, the other portion then gets divided based on population. So that is then reallocated, and Provo City actually benefits. We get more out of than we put in through that population benefit, largely because we have a relatively high population compared to our retail offerings. I think we would be happy to be on the other end of the spectrum and generating so much sales that we're exporting it to other cities. Basically, I wanted to share with you the overall impact that the sales tax has on our budget and the real value that it provides to our community while being a stable and diverse source of income for the city services that are provided to you.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm John Springmeyer, and for the first time, I've got two titles up there. For the past 10 years, I've been president of Bonneville Research. Bonneville Research is a Salt Lake-based management consulting firm. We've specialized in economic development and redevelopment, assisting local governments with streamlining their efforts and trying to focus on the economic side of the budget equation. And then about 4 weeks ago, actually 4 weeks to the day now, I became a full-time employee at West Valley City, handling similar things. So now I've got two hats, and I'm spending more time at two offices and literally carrying two phones. So now I've got the consulting side, I've got the municipal side working. So hopefully it's been an interesting combination here. My role tonight is to talk about how cities can help fund and help incentivize the sales tax and generally new redevelopment and new development to come into their city. It's been shared how important sales tax is to the city's economy. What are we willing to do? What are we willing to give up, and in order to lure those retailers into our city? And how do we accomplish that? So within Utah law, local governments have really very few options on how to help pay for or incentivize new economic development in their city. You can pay for it out of general fund. You can literally write a check to Chick-fil-A and say, hey, here's 10 grand, we want you to come into our city. I didn't make those up. That's an actual number. That was an actual retailer, and that actually happened. I'm just not going to tell you where. You can do special service districts, for business improvement districts. That's an additional property tax that those owners would pay. Or you can do what we call tax increment financing. Most people in the room probably never heard of tax increment financing, but redevelopment or RDAs probably will ring a bell with some people. We've changed the acronyms, we've changed the abbreviations year over year after year, and just changed them again in this last legislative session. But tax increment financing is probably the most utilized tool for local governments on how to have an impact on their own economic development. So what is tax increment? What does it mean? It's based on the basic assumption that new, revitalized, thriving projects will generate more in property taxes than an old or dilapidated or declining property. That increment comes from an increase in the valuation of the property, not necessarily or not at all from an increase in the tax rate. This is one of the misconceptions. Taxes don't go up. The tax rate stays the same, but the property values go up when you're reinvesting in those properties. The increase in that value can be captured by the redevelopment agency year after year as those taxes are paid, and when we're talking property taxes here, and can be used to offset some what I call impediments to development. When we're talking redevelopment, often we're talking about taking down an old building that may have been up since the 60s. It no longer works. It may have asbestos. There's some costs associated to getting to raw ground. We would prefer to have the new development there, maintaining the town, as opposed to, pushing it out to the outskirts or into other raw, undeveloped land that may be cheaper. So we can do some of those offsets like that. Rough number, easy numbers example, if you've got a property that the county assessor values at $100,000 and you pay $1,000 a year in property taxes on that property. If through reinvestment or new construction in the property, that valuation is now $500,000, your taxes are $5,000. The delta between the two, that $4,000, that's the tax increment. And redevelopment agencies within the city can capture that money with the assistance of the other taxing entities to help offset some of those costs. And I think so we can capture those monies and help offset, like I said, some of those costs associated with those impediments to development. Again, important to understand, it's not new taxes. This is a common misconception when we're talking about, and I'm going to use the old terms, the RDAs, that it's new taxes. It's not new taxes. It's not a raising taxes. Redevelopment agencies don't even have that power. This is simply increasing the property value. If your house is worth $200,000 and you add a second story on it and redo and put in a new garage and a pool, and the assessor says now it's worth $350,000, you're going to pay more in taxes. Your taxes went up, but not because your tax rate went up, it's because your property's worth more. That's how it works. The taxing entities, and in Provo we've got the school district is the largest taxing entity. I think they've got somewhere in the 55 to 58% range of the property tax bill. You've got Utah County, you've got Provo City, and then we've got some special service districts, Central Utah Water, if there's a mosquito abatement, there's different in different taxing districts. All those entities will have to opt to participate to do this. They're effectively, they're voting or choosing to defer any new taxes as a result of that new development in order to help pay for that very development. You end up in a little cyclical scene there. Often what we're seeing right now with taxing entities, Utah County, Salt Lake County, pretty much all over the state, these taxing entities will say, yes, we're interested in participating in this. It's incumbent on us regardless of what hat I'm wearing, whether I'm a consultant or whether I'm the city, to show them, our partners in these taxing entities, that what we call the but-for test, that but for this incentive, but for this new money coming in, this development isn't going to occur. We don't want to give away money when it's not necessary, but if there's a justified need for it, and we'll analyze that. But these taxing entities will want to have maybe a taste of some of that new growth, so we'll end up doing a split with them. Most of the projects that I've been working on in the past several years have been done at a 75% of all the new taxes coming in from a new development will go to the redevelopment agency. 25% would go straight through to those taxing entities. So the school district will get, and the county and the city and everybody else will get a piece of those new taxes starting in year one. However long the term is, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that's 10 to 15 years is usually the average of the term of these. So they'll defer the majority of those taxes up until that time frame is over. And then once it's over, they're back to business as usual and they're getting 100% on the taxes. I say 15 is normal. Downtown Salt Lake City, the central business district, is a redevelopment project area, has been since 1983. and it's in a 65-year term right now. With the original term was 20. I think the original term was 40 years, and they did a 25-year extension. I may have those backward, but 65 years on that one. That's abnormal. In between 2007 and 2015, we had basically three different options that we could, as a local government, to do these types of tax increment programs. We had urban renewal, or URAs, where the public purpose was the elimination of blight, and a blight finding and blight studies had to be basically you had to hire someone like myself in order to go and determine that there was a blighted area and go through all that. We had economic development areas where the public purpose was the creation of jobs. These are usually either business parks, office complexes, large manufacturing areas, that kind of thing. Or we had CDAs, and this was the most common use of this. Of the three, this was the most commonly used. The CDAs of note, through a CDA, a municipality can also capture and share, if they so choose, their own sales tax. As was pointed out, sales tax is a large percentage of the city's budget. Cities are usually very reticent to share sales tax, depending on where that development is, but it is an option for them, and we've seen cities do that. So then the legislature got together this last January and February and March and decided that the URA, EDA, CDAs were too complicated, and we're going to change everything again. So now we have CRAs, the community reinvestment area. Effectively, it's the same thing. When it all boils down to it, whichever three-letter abbreviation we're using, it's all tax increment. It's all based on the same principles that we went over. Some quick distinctions now in the new law. CRAs, there's 10% of all the new money that comes in has to go to housing, has to be used for housing. If it's within that project area, it can be used for any type of housing that the administration determines is fit. If it's used outside of the project area, it has to be used for low to moderate income housing. We also have the only variance in that is we have the CRAs where we still have the power of eminent domain, and this is where RDAs and this type of project can get a little bit of a bad name. Eminent domain, condemnation, and blight are scary words that get property owners understandably nervous and anxious. I'm not going to go into all the details of the blight, but that is still an option under the new law. If it's a blighted project, you have to do 20%. For housing. I think that's all I've got here. Quickly in summation, I guess, these project areas are designated for a reason. They're for whatever economic, socioeconomic, environmental reason, development isn't happening. Redevelopment isn't happening in those areas, either the quality or the time that the city and the community want to see it happening. And these are tools that the city has at their disposal to help boost those along and help and help get the retail and help solve some of those questions on the survey and getting some of those services that the residents have indicated they're interested in. Thanks.
Hi, my name is David Walter. I'm the redevelopment director for Provo City. I'm going to talk a little bit about the mix, and As they mentioned earlier, this is the center where Shopko currently is. So it's been bought by a firm out of California, Westport Capital, and they have some pretty ambitious plans for it. So they own most of the center. There are a couple of buildings that they don't own. The Olive Garden's one, Cafe Zupa, the building Cafe Zupa's in is one. The other one, Cold Stone Creamery Building's another one that they don't own. But everything else, that's this building. They don't own this one, and that one. Everything else they have purchased, and they're planning to demolish the entire center and scrape it to the ground and redevelop the entire thing. So this is just a conceptual plan. So they do have some retail into it, but they're mainly looking at office. They are talking about keeping the theater. All this would be parking, some office space here, some restaurant space, some apartments back in here, and a hospitality or a hotel. So as you can imagine, this is a pretty expensive undertaking. So they will be coming to the city of Provo and asking for them to participate by creating a community reinvestment area. Okay, CRA, CDA, it's all alphabet soup, right? But that's what they're looking at. We're very excited about it. We think that this, along with some potential access that would come about through here as a result of the BRT, the bus rapid transit going through, is going to help this center out immensely. I think one of the problems this center has had is people find it difficult to get in and out of. And that's kind of led to some of the stores leaving when they did. So we're excited about this. We think it'll have a lot of positive impact, not only on the city in general, but in particular to the properties on the other side of University Parkway and the surrounding area. So I think that's that. So I'm going to turn it over to, yes.
Just quickly, will Cafe Rio move?
Yes, Cafe Rio will move, but they'll stay in the center in a larger space. That's the first thing they're going to do, is build them a larger space.
And will it use the same sort of choke points to get in and out, or are there new ways of egress for cars?
Well, this is planned when bus rapid transit goes through, this would be a four-legged intersection, which means there'll be and should be a light here. The plan, I think, is to try to push this entrance back a little bit so that it's easier to get in and around of, and wouldn't have the stacking problem to get with this light that you currently have now. But I mean, they are going through this process, and they've gone through several iterations, and they're trying to make it work. Yes, ma'am. Well, first they'd have to demolish it. They are planning to do that probably in this year, and I would probably say they're looking at a 2.5 to maybe 3 year construction period. Maybe a little more aggressive. Yes, ma'am.
When you say a four-legged intersection, is that an intersection where you'll be able to exit the area going in either direction, or will you be going along?
Yes. Yeah, you should be able to. You'd have full access. You'd be able to turn, you're at the light here, and you'd be able to turn left to go this way, or to go across the street into the Walmart shopping center. Yes, sir.
When this was announced, they released several sketches, elevations and whatnot. Has that changed?
Yeah, it's changed a little bit. When they first approached us about the possibility, they actually had planned to do a lot more retail. They were going to invest more heavily into retail. And in looking at the market and looking at it, they still want to do some retail, but they think that an office and some residential would do just as well in this mix as well. So that's the reason they started calling it the mix, is that it's an opportunity to mix things up, have people meet. It kind of a strategic location between both BYU and Utah Valley University. So there are a lot of advantages to them for redeveloping the center. We like it because it's, a lot of property that they would redevelop and help clean up some of it. And some of the big box space is kind of functionally obsolete. Retail trends have changed, and so people are not shopping the same way they used to. And so the fact that we have an interested party who's coming in, a property owner who's excited about not just trying to fill it with whatever they can, but to repurpose the space is pretty exciting to us. Yes, sir.
Would you explain the colors again? Just went over that.
Sure. So the yellow would be office. The purple here would be hospitality. The hotel. Yeah. Sorry. The light blue here would be apartments, and this is all scheduled to be market rate apartments. And then the orange spaces here would be specialty retail. The kind of black. Okay, so I'm a guy and I'm really bad at colors, but whatever color this is, if it's dark purple or mauve or whatever, that's the existing buildings that aren't getting torn down, okay? At one time, and they would probably, in order to make the office space work, they're going to have to do some parking structures. So that's where they're traditionally coming in and asking for assistance from the redevelopment agency in terms of the tax increment that Mr. Springmeyer was talking about. So I think it's, one thing I want to stress is that when we do the redevelopment project areas, the existing taxing entities like the county and the school district will still keep whatever they're getting off the property now. So whatever split they get now, they will keep that. It's just that increase in the value that we're able to get some of that to help pay for some of like the parking structure improvements.
And thank you. And in some cases, when I was talking about that percentage pass-through, in some cases, that pass-through of something, I'm not speaking specifically to this one, but in some cases, that 25% pass-through can be a larger number than they're currently receiving on the existing. So they're actually going to be ahead, even on year one, let alone what happens on year 10 or year 15 when the project period expires.
Yes, sir.
And I know it's early, but are there any retailers that have already committed or expressed good faith, interest in coming in here? That you can talk about?
That's two questions.
There is a retailer that they have talked to that has expressed an interest and liked the concept. They're just kind of asking for a little bit of redesign in terms of parking. So, they have a couple of stores in Salt Lake, and they're looking at Utah County for another market. So, yes, ma'am.
Where it says office, are they office top to bottom, or are the lower level going to be retail?
No, they would be top to bottom office. So this one, I think, is a 5-story. So it's about 300,000 square feet of office space that they're looking to put in. Yes, ma'am.
Do they always have a plan for which hotel that would be for hospitality?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that they're talking to several different people that would franchise the hotel. So, yes, ma'am.
Can you identify those black boardwalk buildings that are going to stay?
This would be Olive Garden. This is Cafe Zupa. JCW's. Oh, you're right. Here's the Cafe Zupa, so that's going to stay. This is the Cold Stone Creamery. I believe this is the dentist office over here on the far end. Those will stay.
The quarry will be torn down?
No.
It's not part of the project.
Okay.
It's over that way for the dentist.
It's western.
Yes, ma'am.
So, David, what we heard originally was that Cafe Rio, whoever was originally Cafe Rio, was going to be moved over and they were going to demolish the Japanese restaurant by Olive Garden and build a flagship Cafe Rio at that location. That's still...
As far as I know, that's still the plan. So, yeah, this would be 4,500 square feet. They would tear down Kyoto, the old Kyoto Steakhouse, and build the Cafe Rio, kind of a much nicer facility right there.
The line will still be 20 minutes.
Probably. Yeah.
Can I ask one other question, David?
No, I'm sorry, you've used up all your time.
We're going to get anywhere. This is quite much like a City Creek when we saw some of the first original drawings. You've got the river behind that separates them from the BYU studios. Have you talked to them about the ambiance? About
Actually, yes, and they would have liked to have been able to kind of open this up and take advantage of the river. There's access. That's when I talked a little bit about the access earlier. They kind of would like to move that back and reconfigure space so that either the hotel or the apartments can kind of look out over the river and the golf course across the way and kind of open it up and really, take advantage of that vista. Yes, ma'am.
How accessible is the theater going to be during this 3 years of construction?
I think it's going to be open the entire time. They have an existing lease with Cinemark, and that lease, I think, has 2.5 years left on it, somewhere around that neighborhood.
They're supposed to be remodeling that right now, aren't they? The theater's going into a remodel stage?
I don't.
They're not seats.
I know that they've been talking to them about the possibility of expanding the theater and working with them on that, but I don't know that's outside of my purview, so.
But like road-wise, is it going to be impossible to get through the parking lots to get to the movie theater?
Well, no, they're planning on trying to make this as accessible as possible. We have to keep the theater because Mayor Curtis says that's the only place he can go for a date, so.
Are they going to lose the speed bumps? Are they going to get rid of the speed bumps from there?
Most likely. I would think that would be something that they want to, there'd be other ways to control the traffic besides putting in speed bumps, so. Yes, sir.
Is there any open space, park amenities in it, or is it just parking lots and buildings?
This is a conceptual plan, so I'm sure they would try to put some open space in there, but a lot of it's going to be, improved area. Yes, ma'am.
I just think,
This is 3 now.
this is just going by the stories that were written by me, on what the owners told me with those renderings that first came out. They first have a really big, beautiful roundabout that will be part of the planting and growing and stuff, but there's going to be even a stamped brick look kind of walking areas and things that will divide retail from the business side. And some of those businesses, I'm to understand, are actually research and development that are being done by BYU, former BYU students that are going to go with research and development and other startup type.
Right. So part of the plan was that they would capture on a market that, so for example, we have the startup building. So brand new businesses, lots of times they start very small, 1 or 2 people. And when they grow, they're looking to go into a slightly larger space. And in some places that's not readily available. So the thought is that if we could house some of them here. Also, we could house things that would be here that couldn't necessarily be on either the BYU or UVU campus. So like a research and development park. So for example, I know that the University of Utah has a fairly extensive office complex that kind of surrounds or is on the outside of that campus. There's not really a similar facility here. This would be an opportunity now for professors and students at both Brigham Young and Utah Valley to come here and maybe then their second round of funding or whatever level they're at, when they're ready to expand, they could come here. So just recently I had the opportunity to meet with a gentleman who owns Disruptive Marketing, and he was in the Novell Business Campus down in East Bay. His company expanded. Now he moved out to Linden. So he has about 50 people now, but he's still expanding, and at some point he's looking to move again. This would be like an ideal place for him to land in the future if he's still looking for space in, say, 3 years. Yes, sir.
Do we know how big those buildings are going to be? It's dense. Do we know how tall or how big?
5 stories each, so about 100,000 square feet for each. For each footprint. That's how you get the 300,000 square feet. The retail spaces would be lower, obviously. Yes, sir.
Will there be any subsurface parking, or is it just all surface?
The restructured parking wouldn't necessarily be. Yeah, this is planned to be structured parking back here. I don't think it's going to be subterranean, but I think it's all structured parking. Yes, sir.
Can you explain more what the vision is for the retail? I know nationwide, malls seem to be closing and people moving away from malls. The trend seems to be going to more drive-up shopping.
Well, sure. So,
What, are we giving up on retail there?
no. So, as you mentioned, retail's kind of going a transition, it's undergoing a transition nationwide. So, lots of us shop on Amazon or other places online because online retail can provide a pretty wide selection without necessarily having the physical space to show it, unlike, say, a Super Walmart or your typical big box where they still have, their claim to fame used to be you could walk in and get everything you needed because it was right there. So they carried a lot. Inventory was pretty big, and that slowly became an issue. People like Amazon and other online retailers came through and kind of undercut that because now their offerings are easier to work through, easier to get. You can do it from the comfort of your home. So we've seen nationwide, you've seen Linens and Things close, you've seen Circuit City go away. Best Buy is cutting back on a lot of their stores nationwide. Borders closed. Sports Authority just recently closed. So this transition's happening, and people are preferring, more experience-driven shopping. So, for example, I think Costco, does a pretty good job of having you go, you get some nice things, but you also have the opportunity to look at different things, try different foods in their stations that they got around the store. So it's an experience-driven type thing. People are going in and having, kind of a social event while they're shopping. So the fact where you're going through a big box of 200,000 square feet of just laid out retail, some folks are finding that to be problematic. So what we're looking at and I shouldn't say we, but for what developers are looking at now is when you come to a center like this, you're going to have, for lack of a better term, niche retail that's going to be there to support the businesses and other things, the businesses that are in this area as well as in the surrounding community. So not that I'm saying they would go there, but this would be the type of place that Trader Joe's would look at because you'd have the surrounding businesses to okay, I just freaked out the mayor, sorry. And I'm not saying that they're going there, I have to reiterate that. But, so the fast casual restaurants would be there, but some specialty boutique shopping, that kind of thing that would be supporting this type of office space, as well as the surrounding community. That's the kind of retail that developers are looking at trying to attract to the area. Yes, sir.
Jason Jacobs is pursuing a national online sales tax. Is that something Provo City supports? Or is that the city?
That's a bit above my pay grade. I will answer that by saying, how many people here remember Star Trek: The Next Generation? So there was an alien race called the Ferengi. They were very trade-oriented. They lived by the rules of acquisition. So rule of acquisition 242 is more is good, all is better. So that would be my philosophy on it. Sure.
Don't go anywhere. He's doing a great job, isn't he? Thank you. Yes. I didn't see who asked the question, but I'm happy to answer that. And so the answer is if you saw that although it's not 40%, it's 20, Dustin, the percentage, 26%. So that is our largest source of income as a city. So one of two things has to happen as we're transitioning to more online purchases is cities need to swap that out for another source of income, or we need to collect that income. And so I think it would be fair to say that, at least for myself, that I support making sure cities are whole and healthy. And one way or another, we've got to collect that revenue. And so if the answer is that we do it by taxing online sales, great. If not, we do have to be aware that revenue needs to be swapped out someplace else. Raise your hand if you would like that someplace else to be property tax. Okay. You're not in the majority. It's the most hated tax we have. But that's the debate.
Yes, sir.
So I understand the economic drivers behind this. I have a question about our quality of life and the fact that that's called University Parkway. What requirements has the city made to this developer to maintain the park-like atmosphere along that parkway?
Well, I think it's kind of important that they have not made an official submittal to the city yet. They've just come in and shown us preliminary concepts. They've gone through several iterations of what, I think when they spoke with Ms. Pugmire, they had a different set of pictures that they were looking at. Now it's slightly different, and I'm sure this is not the final version. There will probably be another version before they make their official submittal. A lot of that has to do with what they do is, I think the mayor mentioned earlier that we have gone to the International Council on Shopping Centers, which is a fairly large shopping center convention that happens in Las Vegas. There's a Western Regional that happens in San Diego. And so what ends up happening is that anybody that's associated with retail in any form, whether you're financing it, whether you're developing it, whether you're insuring it, whether you're a retailer, whether you're a city looking to attract retailers, if you're involved in the retail industry at some point, you're at this convention. So what happens is that people go around and try to put a deal together, and the financing is such that they have to get a certain level of commitment before they can get financing in some cases to do this. We're fortunate with Westport Capital is that they are a fairly large, substantial developer, and they have self-funded a lot of projects. They have access to capital already that they wouldn't have to go out and try to find capital partners to work with. But what that does is it kind of forces them to go through this process where they put some pretty pictures on paper or on an iPad and go around and shop it to everybody and see what the reaction is. So right now we haven't obligated them to maintain anything because they haven't submitted anything for us to officially comment on.
Other than what is the current zoning.
Right. I mean, developers who are savvy would take our zoning code, look at it, see what our requirements are, and build that into their models before they come and actually approach us. That's some developers unfortunately don't do that. So when they come through, they find out that they can't have quite all the square footage that they have because we have a certain requirement in our zoning code that says you can only have out of the X acres, Y of those X acres have to be open space. So they have to go back and scale back their plans. Yes, ma'am.
So I guess my biggest frustration currently is that we've pushed out all the big box stores, yet we still have so many families that live here. I have 6 children, and on any given day, someone will come home, and at 7 o'clock at night before they shower, they're going to say, I have a school project that has to get done. I can't, even with Amazon Prime, I can't shop it and get here by the time school starts the next day.
Yeah.
And so you forced me to go out of Provo to go find those things, and then pray that the store I'm shopping at actually has it, because
So,
and so that's the biggest frustration. You pushed out all those stores, and I realized that we're looking at boutique-style stores. I live downtown Provo. You're not bringing me anything that's useful, and that's really frustrating because I do have 6 kids, and that's kind of my drive right now. The retail thing is that
sure.
deal with that frustration every.
Sure. Can I just kind of address that real quick? So this is just one spot. This is not the only place we're looking at right now. So we are trying to get other retailers either to expand in the downtown area or to locate in other areas of the community where they're okay. So
you pushed away Kmart, Gloss Shop Co.
well, I mean, just to,
Target doesn't love us, so we can't come like,
I would take exception with that last statement.
I know, they don't love us not to come.
Well, okay,
You know
now,
what I mean, like we're looking, there are so many places, we're building a high school out on the west side again. I have to drive 1,000,000 miles every day to go to the high school. Yet there's no grocery store for me to stop at on the way when I go back and forth to the high school 3 times a day because I have to go to band and have to go to basketball. Oh, and my child forgot their basketball shoes. It's out in the middle of Bootland. There's no access for me anywhere else.
so, we,
More questions will be answered when I talk about.
yeah, we have a couple other people we have a couple other people that are going to hear. But, you know, I would say that, you know, the city didn't force out either Kmart or Shopko. That was a business decision that they, you know, that those stores made, and Kmart is struggling nationwide. And so is Shopko. They're making a decision to close, and part of that, I'm gonna regret saying this, but part of that is because some of us weren't shopping at those places when they were here. Now, we are talking, you know, we are talking to Walmart, we are talking to Target, we are talking to, you know, a whole host of other people. We're talking to Smiths about different options. So we are reaching out to some of those retailers to talk about coming to the area. Yes, sir.
Just a comment, I actually work right across the street in Coventry Square, and we've known this is coming, and we've been really excited about it because we love to walk across the street, and the subway's now gone, and several other places are gone, and we're like, yay, this is coming in. But looking at this, it's even worse than what it was for us, because all the retail is clear on the other end of it. But, you know, I mean, we walked to Cafe Rio, we walked to Zuba's, but we never walked to Bacon and Cold Stone. You know, and now all the retail's been pushed away. It just feels like the hotel and the retail could switch, because everyone drives to a hotel, but there's thousands of office workers in Coventry Square that could walk to amenities that now it's become even worse. I mean, we're getting a hotel next door instead of restaurants and, you know, post office stores and things that could support the businesses right across the street.
Well, you know, again, this is a conceptual drawing, and they're not made in a formal submittal yet. Excuse me. What? Yeah, so, does anyone have any more questions for me? Yes, sir.
Has engineering reviewed this new entrance you're going to create with the new semaphore so close to the bridge coming down and all the traffic coming down that hill? If it's being happy to stop there at the light?
Yes.
Going around the blind corner?
Well, this is planned to be a signalized intersection.
Is that where the existing one is?
Yes. But they have been in discussions with the center across the way about bringing them on and making it a full intersection.
Why not move where the Walmart one is now? That seems like a better.
This was
Considered, I guess.
state highway. It's something that it's, you know, unfortunately we don't always control our own destiny. So if there are no more questions for me, and I'll be happy to answer any more. I'll be around for the rest of the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Scott and to Brandon, and they're going to talk about some of the other things that are happening in other places in the city.
I don't believe we have any slides, and I'm not Brandon Rawlings, but that's Brandon Rawlings here. But I'm Scott Hansen. I've been the general manager over at the Provo Town Center for the last 10 years. A little bit of history. So I think it was 96 approximately, that mall was purchased by General Growth Properties, which was the second largest shopping center developer in the country at the time. And I have been there 10 years, and the mayor's right, you know, they were a good owner. However, they didn't have the vision of what it could be. So just recently, and this is only in January, the mall was purchased by Brixton Capital, and these owners do have vision. And in the 10 years that I've been there, I haven't been more excited. My workload has gone from here to here with all the ideas and everything we have to put together, but we're really excited. I want to really thank the mayor and and Scott and Dixon and the development agency. They've really been a great partner for the city, and I want to commend them that they have really put forth the city's best interests. I really think that's what they're doing, and not because I'm a retailer, but I've been to lots of community meetings where they really care about what you guys want in the city. So I really do. Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to tell you a story, just a brief introduction to Brixton Capital. Did Dave leave? I don't know how long it took him to get from purchasing that property to going ahead to develop it. But we're in the phase right now where, it's only been January 29th, so really February 1st, that Brixton Capital purchased Provo Town Center. And so although we have gone out and hired a really great architect, right, and we've actually had a few renderings that we've taken to the ICSC, conceptual renderings to kind of pique people's interest, it does take time. And so we're kind of in the position right now where we are looking at the market research. We're gathering information about, what's best, what does the consumer want, what does the what can survive there, how can we change this to be better. So we're looking at all of those things right now as we speak. And so I don't have any real great graphs. I'm hoping or pictures or anything, but I'm hoping that in a year from now we'll be there, because I'm suspecting that, for example, Southtown Mall was purchased approximately 2 years ago. They're right in the middle of their redevelopment down in the Southtown Mall, Salt Lake. It's going to take us a couple of years to get there. But one of the things I wanted to tell you about was I had a meeting with the chairman of Brixton Capital, our owner, and as he walked through the mall, he asked me lots of questions, and I was on like a 2-month interview with all these guys, making sure I was the right guy for the job. But he asked me, he says, so what are you going to do for this mall? And I said, being a good steward of the finances of any investor, I said, well, I'm going to bring you a return on your investment, And he says to me, that's not the only thing that's important. I want this community to be proud of this mall. I want this to be something that the community loves and enjoys just as much as we bring a return. And so I wanted to kind of just say that so you can feel the kind of the excitement and the character of the new owners of the mall, and just kind of give you an idea of kind of where we think we'll be heading in a year or two. So. And I think the guys, I'm not sure he was, but I also support the Marketplace Fairness Acts by Representative Chaffetz, because I believe in the brick and mortar. I believe that that's a place for people to go. It's a place for families to meet. It's a place for where we can support, our tax base supports the public infrastructure. So I too, I'm a supporter of that, and Representative Chaffetz. So. I will take a few questions, but because we're still in the planning stages, there's not a lot of information we can give at this time. But if you wanted to ask us a couple of questions, Brandon's one of our leasing guys, and he can.
Let me just quickly tell you just about, so JLL, to be short, sorry about that. So JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle, it's one of the largest brokerage firms in the world. We have 53,000 employees, 230 offices. In 60-something countries now. But Brixton went through and interviewed several brokerages to try and figure out who's going to take over management, who's going to take over leasing, and all of that. And so they had selected JLL. And JLL, we actually have an office in Utah. So I'm based out of Salt Lake City. And my primary focus is to basically get leasing going there. Just we're open for business, right? It's been very tough because malls over time have not been that receptive to outside businesses coming in. And what that means is most businesses are represented by real estate brokers or different things. And so you really have to go out and find those tenants. People just aren't knocking on the door saying, hey, we want to come to this mall. So that's what we're trying to get over the hurdle. So like what Raleigh's going to talk to you about here in a little bit, the brokerage community and everywhere, we're going to come together and really just get the word out that we can do deals, and we can bring new tenants in and bring these different concepts into the mall. We had talked about it's an experience, right, in a mall and all that stuff. If you've been to the Lego store in Fashion Place Mall, it's incredible. And if you really want to buy something on Amazon, a Lego set, I wouldn't do it. I'd go to the Lego store in Fashion Place. because your kids will remember that if they're with you or not, or your spouse. But it's just that being able to be with them, experience what you're going to do, and go from that. So that's really the conceptual plans that we're trying to do, is what experiences can we create at Provo Town Center Mall so that everybody benefits, from that. So. Yes.
Can you explain to the public and to us the relationship between the Sears building and the rest of the mall? Because evidently from the email I get to the newsroom, what's going to happen to Sears? Sears is our store kind of thing.
Yep.
There is a relationship that needs to be understood there.
Yeah, you bet. Scott's probably the best one to talk about that.
So Sears is a struggling tenant nationwide, and we understand that as developers, and we are actively looking at other options. We don't have anything to announce, obviously, but even from the day we purchased, well, that's part of the due diligence for any owner, is like, what's going to happen in the future? And if an owner looks at at a building and says, I've got risk here, that's the first thing they're going to try to handle. So there is obviously a bit of risk because nationally they're struggling, and there's no immediate plans right now in the near future for them to close. But if we are able to, solidify a tenant that that the community be proud of and happy with, that's what we're going to try to do.
And we've seen that right now in like Layton Hills Mall and different things like that. It's awesome. They had a couple big boxes up there north, and they put in Dick's Sporting Goods up there. But then also they just announced they have an interactive aquarium as well going in right now, which is just phenomenal. But it's all about that experience of replacing those big boxes with something like an interactive aquarium, or you look at climbing gyms, like Momentum climbing gyms. Those guys are doing awesome. Just those things is what we're kind of going after. But we don't have any tenants to announce. We're just conceptually drawing it. Yes?
That Dillard's parking lot is so huge. There's got to be some way to utilize it.
An airport number 3 or something. That'd be great. I know Mayor, JetBlue wanted to announce something, or Frontier, I don't know, but so thank you. That's awesome.
It's just massive. Is there a way? Hopefully the conceptual drawing was something. You get something
Dillard's is a unique anchor because Dillard's across the nation own their own buildings and their own property there. So they pay their own property tax, they own their own building, they own their own parking lot. And although they're attached to them all, they have a strict REA, which their real estate agreement says that they control it. And so Bill Dillard, if he's wanting to put something in there, we'd encourage it.
But parking ratios and what obstructs that. I mean, there's so many things that you're just like, oh,
so
man.
there's things coming in, hopefully will make it more, like some malls now have hotels and offices.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So the new owners own pieces of hotels. They have connections there. We have connections with hotels, because JLL is not just in the retail. They own and they help manage many different kinds of facilities. So a good mix. I know that one's called the mix, but obviously a good mix will be help out.
Yeah, there definitely has to have different components to make a development prosper. Just getting people on the site, you've got to do that.
Yeah.
Any consideration of changing the name of the mall?
The name won't change.
No.
And the reason is that we've seen a lot. We've actually done research on that and thought about those kind of things. But really, if we change the name to something else, people are still going to say, let's go down to that Provo Mall, the Provo Town Center. They're still going to say it. So we would just keep it.
Yeah, especially with all the city and everything that they're doing to help us promote the business and all that. We really need to have Provo.
Last question. One last one? Yeah.
What about the empty lots surrounding the mall? Is that being taken?
In front of the mall?
Yeah, all the empty lots that are.
Yes, that was purchased. That was purchased with with our owners too, and the architects are looking at it and trying to give it better curb appeal. So yes, it's a
Curb appeal or like?
Everything, access
Everything,
points. I mean,
access
so if you go
points.
back and you look at the way the rotating road goes around and stuff. There's just things that become obsolete, right, in the way you're doing it. So different ingress and egress off of sites, signalized intersections.
We're not even
absolutely,
as far as presenting,
Yeah.
this kind of a plan. So
Yeah.
there's been discussions about what do we do with it. I mean,
So it's actually getting thought about.
yes.
Yeah.
We usually have a mob, and it's about 12 people, and if they follow us around, we do seriously. I mean, when we're in there. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
All right, now my name's up there. I can come up. I'm JJ Herring. I'm with the Shops at Riverwoods. I've been with the Shops at Riverwoods for about 5 years, and things are going great at the Shops at Riverwoods. We're really excited. Just to give a couple of talking points, the Shops at Riverwoods, one of the things that all malls do this, and all shopping centers do this, they get sales numbers from their tenants, and that's a good indicator of how the health of your center is doing. And what we've noticed over the last little while with our shops is recently in the last 3 years, so in 2013 over 2012, we were actually up 3.7%, and then in 2013 to 2014, we were up 5.6%, and then 9.9% actually year over year last year in 2015. And one of the really cool things about last year is in 10 of the 12 months last year in 2015, that the shopping center hit in 10 of those months the highest sales numbers that the shopping centers hit since it was created in 1998. So in 18 years, 2015 was our best year in 10 of the 12 months, which is actually a really cool, really exciting thing for us to know, that because the owners, as you guys know and have seen, have invested a lot of money, a lot of effort into changing the shopping center, changing the traffic patterns when they purchased the shopping center in 2009. And so that just gives us an indication that we're making the right decisions and we're going in the right direction. One of the other things that has helped us a lot over the last few years since we've taken possession of the shopping center is increasing our tenant mix. When we purchased the mall in 2009, the occupancy level was 49%, and any of these guys sitting right here will say that that's a terrible number, and why would we buy it? But actually now, so by the end of this year, the occupancy at the shopping center will be up to 96%. So we've increased the occupancy, and we've also increased the tenant mix to make it, we're what we call a lifestyle center, so we've increased it to make it more lifestyle specific. We want people to be able to come down to the Riverwoods and do anything that they want to do, whether that be going to Provo Beach and having fun and enjoying time with their family, whether that be going and exercising at some of our different yoga facilities or fitness places. And then obviously everyone knows about our restaurants, and then we have great retail as well. And so being able to create that mix and diversify that mix has helped us increase the Shops at Riverwoods, the amount of traffic that's coming down and the sales that way. And then another thing is our community events. Who's been to one of our community events down there? Anyone? Yes, I love to see it. I don't think there was maybe 3 hands that didn't go up, so that's amazing. So we do our 5 huge events during the year. They bring lots of people. Our next one coming up is Chalk the Block. If you haven't gone to that one's an amazing one to go to. The parking lots turn into 300 artists come down and turn the parking lots into works of art, and so it's just an amazing event. It's September 22nd through the 24th. That's my marketing plug for the marketing director. And then in terms of updates, so we're happy with where things are at. We love what's going on. We're excited, but we want to take it to the next level. We want to help diversify our portfolio a little bit more and bring new shops in. We don't have that many shops to bring in because we only have a few vacancies. So we're working on those. We actually just signed an LOI, which is a letter of intent for someone to come into the shopping center to take the old Borders space, which was left vacant by everyone talking about these big box, mid-box tenants that are all kind of going away. We're going to replace that That's going to actually be, we're going to change that to an office tenant. We want to help re-diversify and keep that to be kind of what I was saying with the lifestyle center, that you can have, you can come down, you can work there, you can play there, you can eat there, you can do everything that you want there. So that will be an office tenant. And then we're continuing to work on grocery concepts as well. That's a big thing for us that we're trying to get into the shopping center that we're still working on. And then other than that, I can't share too much. I'm like these guys here that you can only share so much because it's all in a incubator trying to come up with the right idea. But we hope to in the next coming months and throughout the next year to be able to announce some major projects that we're doing and some major not redevelopment, but potential like expansion opportunities and making the center bigger, better, and just to be a showplace for Provo. We love it's a beautiful location, and we want to make it bigger and better, and we're working with some developers for some of the land across the street to make sure that there's a synergistic projects being done around our shopping center that just help make us all exponentially grow. So, yes?
Thank you. You mentioned across the street, I'm assuming you mean to the south.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not part of the Riverwoods now?
It is not part of the Riverwoods, but we are working with some developers over there that are looking into doing some sort of project over there and hoping that we want to just make sure that it plays off of each other really well.
And is the Windsong part of the Riverwoods, or is that
Windsong is not, and I'll tell you, if we could own it, we would love to. But right now we do not, so if anyone knows anyone that wants to sell it to us, we'll take it.
What about parking? Are you updating the parking or expanding the parking?
Yes. So unlike Dillard's, we have a small amount of parking, right? So, but yes, we as we go through what the next 20 years are going to be at the shopping center, parking is a huge focus. We've actually realized with getting more and more busy that before it was only Friday, Saturday night, you couldn't find a parking spot. Now it's kind of creeping at you Thursday nights and Monday nights. It's just getting harder and harder to find parking. So it's definitely something that's being addressed in our development plans going forward that way. Yes.
I just want to say that I'm a corporate event person for my company, and anytime we have lots of out-of-state people come in, I always send them to Riverwoods.
Great. I love hearing that.
Beyond, especially at Christmas time, it is like a showcase for Provo.
Good.
And I always try to promote Provo, and that's what
Great.
places where I can promote it.
I appreciate that.
I also send them to go buy something. They've got to cross the border into Orem and go to a really nice market over there across the border.
All right. Well, we're going to try and fix that. Let's keep them in Provo for sure. Yes, sir.
I do like the permanence of Riverwoods. The stone, the tactile feel, earthy. I like that heaviness. This looks like an old castle village type. I like how that's been done.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're keeping with that. Hopefully, if you expand, you use that.
Sure. Yeah, there was a lot of, when the new development was done in 2009, there was a lot of people and our owners had a vision of what they wanted, and they were able to stick to it and put the effort in. And so because they made that investment and that time investment, even more importantly, they want to be here long term, and they want to keep going that way. They're not running anywhere soon. So they're local, and they want it to be not only a shopping place, but a community gathering place, which is very important to them as well. Yes?
How's the residential worked out? Is that full?
The residential, from what I understand, it is all full. I mean, I'm not privy to every single individual tenant, but to my knowledge, what I've been told is it's full and it's hard to get into in that area.
It's a good mixed use.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
The retail space under the residential, is that fully utilized?
We don't control that. That's a question we get a lot. We don't control those. Those are all individually owned. So there's a lot of tenants that come in and out that way.
Who owns them?
They're all individually owned by whoever owns that piece. It's almost like renting out a house that way. So
it's like the people upstairs own?
Not necessarily the people upstairs, they just own that little piece of retail property, and so they can rent it and sell it accordingly.
It's like a little condo retail?
Yeah. Yep. Sir,
Real quick, so does Riverwoods own the vacant lot north of those condos? Because that's just weeds and rocks.
north of that. North. Oh no, we do not. I don't. I can announce for someone else because it doesn't matter. But the last I heard, because we're on a board of we have to sign off on certain things for that lot. Terranet Investments, who used to own the mall, actually still owns that parcel of land. And the last I heard, in potentially, I can say this because it doesn't matter, I can't get in trouble, 2017 or 2018, they wanted to just add more apartments or condos to that area, which they, at the time, when they gave us kind of an idea of what they were going to do, it was going to be about 45 or 50 more doors that would go in that lot there. But we don't own that, no. Okay. Any other? Yes, sir.
As this becomes more of a center, it would be nice if there was some sort of shuttle between, say, downtown and the Riverwoods, and that I think would affect your need for parking as well. We have space at Provo Town Center.
Yes. Let's bring that BRT up that way, and we'll go. Yeah. No. We would love that to be open. We'll probably work with the city and the economic development and see if we can maybe come up with something like that. That'd be great. Thank you for the idea. Anyone else? All right. Thank you.
So I'm actually with Trader Joe's, and I'm here to announce that we're opening a store. Just kidding. My name is Raleigh Nielsen. I'm with CBC Advisors, and I actually run our investment sales group, but I also am involved in the retail leasing of the East Bay Shopping Center, which is right across the street from Provo Town Center Mall, down on the south end of Provo. We are involved in the leasing there because it's the same ownership group that owns the property that is now called The Mix, which was formerly Plumtree Center. So I sold that last year to this group. And I guess, digressing quickly, but so you guys can understand, when we sold that Plumtree Center and took it to market, and we sell stuff all over the state and all over the region, that particular property got more offers than any deal that I'd ever listed in Utah. And they were offers. There was only one offer from Utah, and we got 15 total offers. We did not go with the highest price. We wanted to strategically pick a group that was going to do something special there. And as they've explained to you about The Mix, I think something really special is going to happen there. When you see the team that Westport has put together in terms of their retail strategists, their multifamily, their office, it's going to be a pretty amazing project. And as you kind of saw the renderings, and that's all going to evolve into something greater, but you should be really excited. That's going to be an exciting project. And I'd say along with that, very quickly, as mentioned earlier, the city of Provo is amazing. We do deals all over the state. I've never had a city proactively do something like this, proactively call brokers saying, hey, you should call this tenant, you should call this person, maybe they want to come to Provo. These guys are fighting for you, and they're doing a great job. So some of these projects, like East Bay that I'm working on, they're going to take a little time, Provo Town Center, but really, really cool things are happening here. East Bay Center, just a couple quick updates. That is the center that Kmart left last year. And we don't control the piece. Our center's a little odd because we control everything north of Kmart and everything south, but we didn't control the Kmart building. That was a different ownership. So when they left, that really hurt us. We lost probably 3 or 4 tenants in the 6 months to 9 months it took for At Home to plug in there. But now that At Home's there, we have a very strong foundation, and we're growing around that. We are, knock on wood, a couple more lease comments away from having a lease signed with a national retailer that all of you would love. The mother with 6 children, you could probably spend half your day there. So some really good tenants that we're not just working on, but they're committed to East Bay, that are signing leases once we get some pieces worked out. And then all the other pieces will fall into place. We just renewed the lease with Staples. They're staying. Dollar Tree's staying. Reams loves it. We did lose Sweet Tooth Fairy, who ended up coming downtown. So we've got some space to fill there. But overall, really good things are happening down there, and with our buddies across the street, it's gonna, I think, ignite South Provo. Any particular or specific questions on East Bay? Yes, ma'am.
So, there's kind of a food desert in South Provo. So, I work in Provo, sorry. But, so there's like the lack of grocery stores, there's Allen's, which is ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's appropriate to say, but it's sketchy to go in there. Food, like, it's, anyway. So, I know for myself, like, I drive, it's no big deal, like, I go to Windsor after tax. Is there any chance of getting a grocery store that's lower priced for the people who live there? Because it's lower socioeconomic people who live in East Bay. Is there anything like that that's going to come that'll help vitalize that so they can get?
We're definitely having, so the way our center kind of works, so we lost Good Earth, who was a higher price grocery store. But the way our center is kind of working is it's all hinging on this national tenant that we're very close to signing. Once they sign, we've got a list of 10 to 15 other groups, including food users, that want to go in that center. Does it mean they'll definitely go? No. The more I've learned about grocers are so specific in their demographic studies. I mean, you all know this. You did a huge campaign to get Trader Joe's here. To me, it's a no-brainer. But when you run a demographic or a market study for a grocer, it's just a different world. So we're hoping for it for sure. It's definitely something we're working on, yeah.
Are you also going to hopefully improve the landscape? I know some of those plum trees are dead and corroded.
Yeah.
Landscaping going to be?
It is. So that center right now, same as Plumtree, that center's owned by a bank. It was foreclosed on 2 years ago, as was Plumtree. So they do their best to maintain it where it's at, to get at least up to a point where it's viable, and then a group like Westport out of Los Angeles or Brixton or someone with deep pockets will come in, buy it, and then that's when those improvements will be made. And I'm thinking that's probably at some point next year where they make that transaction.
Talk a little bit about big vacant parking lots. Is there any ideas or plans to?
Fireworks stand just went up. Yeah, believe me, when I saw the parking lot at Plumtree and the parking lot at East Bay, it's just sea of parking. You don't need that much parking. But that's how they were designed. That's not how today's retail is designed. So yes, we talk about it, but unfortunately with our particular owner, there won't be a lot of creative thought into how to add value there. But I can tell you, I've now had 3 offers to buy just 1 acre parcels there, closer to the street, to do restaurants or I think a bank. So yes, I think when there's a new owner in place that can sell off these individual parcels, that will all take shape. But for now, it's tough.
There's no plan to design it as one space rather than this hodgepodge of independent buildings that, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the problem is too, they're all different owners. There's probably 6 different owners just around there, just because that's how it was designed, 30 years ago when they were making parcels or whenever. Yes, ma'am.
What's your timeline on announcing a retailer there and actually starting to put pedal to the metal, like let's say something?
So as with a lot of retailers, we're hoping to sign the lease within the next 3 months, the 3 weeks, but there's a provision in there that we have to keep our mouths shut until they make the official announcement. Their goal is a spring 2017 opening. So be open by next year. I don't know when they make the announcement.
But it's fast. They're not going to drag their feet once they make their announcement.
No, their goal, and we're kind of in that sweet spot where they need to sign the lease now if they want to get open by next year, and they want to open spring. So
if you have your construction bids in, you need to be getting your jobs.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think you answered this. I only caught half of it. I'm sorry. So it's currently the properties owned by the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Went through a foreclosure. You're thinking that maybe sometime next year it'll be kind of back up where it's like.
Yeah. That's kind of their typical process is just get it stabilized, attractive enough for a buyer, and then get it back out on the market.
At which point a new buyer might put trees in.
And that's exactly who it's going to be. I mean, when you, I mentioned this, but I also listed an office building here in Provo. Whenever you take anything to market that says Provo on it right now, because of the job these guys are doing, people across the country are jumping for this stuff. So they're willing to pay much more than local buyers, and they're willing to put more money in just because that's what they're used to. So that's what I anticipate. Yes, sir.
Are you putting any residential or office?
No.
Use in any?
There's no plans for that.
Okay. Back to Plum Tree.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you put the hotel and the residential back in against the hill, and put the retail, movie theaters, recreation out front where it's visible?
Yeah, I'll mention it to them. I kind of sold them the building, and now I'm just a innocent bystander. But we are talking to them and giving them feedback. So, and again, all these folks, I mean, they're retail strategists. It's what they do day in and day out. So they're designing it, I think, for the way that they think flows best and is best for the consumer. Thank you.
So we've been here a long time, and I want to do just a couple of quick points, and then we'll see if we've got time for just a question or two. A couple of points I'd like to make is one of the things that we wanted to be glaringly obvious tonight, and hopefully it is the difference between now and a year ago, February, when we met, and what's happening with the city in retail. And retail, not unlike other development, takes a long time to mature. The major lease that you're talking about signing, how long have you been working on that?
Us, 2 years, before that a year, I think.
Yeah, so 3 years in the making to where he's almost ready to make the announcement. So I think we want, and another thing you've sensed is they can't quite tell you a lot of things, and the nature of the business, if you think about this retailer, they thrive on beating their competition and making moves that their competition doesn't know about. They do not want people to know what they're doing. And so the sense that you're hearing is not secrecy from us, but these retailers that they're working with that pretty much demand that until they make the announcement, it's their announcement to make, they'll make it when they want to make it. There is a host of things we would love to tell you tonight. And I want you to get the sense that we're on the brink of a lot of very, very good things that are happening in the city. The other point I want to make is if there's one thing I would have changed about tonight so far is poor David Walter, where's David, who got the assignment to get a very bland slide and defend it to you. Yeah. And one of the reasons, among other things, other than it just didn't work out, that particular developer is not here, is they just don't feel ready. And so to judge them on that slide, it would be unfortunate. The city has a lot of control as well about what goes in there. I know there were a couple questions about, oh man, we want something different. They have the ability to build anything they want that conforms to the current zoning and the current regulations of the city. The moment they depart from that, they need our permission to do that. And that will be a very high bar. I want you to know that will be a high bar. It was also mentioned that they would like some incentives. So even if they want to do something within the current zoning, they will need our blessing in order to build that. And that's months and perhaps years away for this thing to mature. So I wouldn't want anybody to walk away picturing that slide in their mind and saying, oh, golly, we can do better than that, right? It's just this tiny little slice in a very, very long process that they're going through of figuring out what the market is, figuring out what will work. If we force them to put something in there that won't work, then we've got a Shopco again, right? That's just not going to be good. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank you for being here. Are there a couple of questions? I mean, we've answered a lot of questions, and we don't want to go a whole lot longer. Let's just take 2, maybe 3, and we'll go right here. And then, isn't this nice that these folks have joined us tonight? Didn't it dramatically change the meeting? Thank you for being here. And I'm going to offer on behalf of them that they'll be hanging around here for just a minute. If you didn't get, I know there were 1 or 2 questions you didn't get asked. So yes, real quick here and then in front right here.
Are you offering tax increment, in other words, enticements to come?
So the answer to that question is we want to be clear that that is a tool in our toolbox and that we are prepared to use it. Now, we don't want to lead with that. We don't want to just give money away to just anybody, but we're prepared to make things happen that wouldn't happen otherwise. Remember the but for? We understand there's a lot of things but for us offering that are not going to happen that we want to happen. So it's a tool in our toolbox. We're not afraid to pull it out. At the same time, we're about 20% of the equation of yes. In real rough numbers, the school board's 60% and the county's 20% and we're 20%. So we've got to deliver a deal that our partners will buy, because otherwise we're 20% of the equation. Yes?
We've heard a lot of great things coming from retail to Provo. I'm wondering if the west side.
Yeah. Had to, yeah. Yes, so let me just try to address, it's amazing that it hasn't come up until right now, right? Our residents of the west side would die for some of this retail, a fraction of this retail that we're talking about, particularly grocery. I want you to know we know that. And as we're out there working these deals and talking to these good brokers and the developers, that's constantly on our mind about how do we make that happen. Let me give you some good news and some bad news. Okay. The good news is the West Side Connector will be finished this year. That's the road leaving the Home Depot and going out towards the airport. That's going to facilitate some dramatic change in the area. That's good and bad with that, right? The high school moving to that part of the city already is increasing demand over in that area and bringing the development. These are a couple of the key pieces that have been missing that the developers are looking for. The west side, a lot of people move there because they love the sleepy, open space, quiet, slow pace, right? I mean, so we got a little problem here because at the same time we want at least a moderate amount of retail over there, but so far some things have kept it out, primarily just the numbers and things like that. So I want you to know we're aware of it. It's very, very important to us. There are a couple of pieces coming into place that are going to facilitate that and make that much more likely. Very good. Okay, one more here, and then we'll be done.
One question. You mentioned the city codes. Being an urban planner in urban planning circles, a lot of people are saying that the codes are archaic, like the retail component is archaic. Is there any, are we open-minded enough to...
Who's here from the city council? They left, didn't they, Gary? They've all gone. There were a couple here. Is there any? I would say this. I don't know that I would disagree with that, nor would the council disagree with that. There is some element that they like of control by the codes being archaic. That means the developer has to come to them. Now that's good and bad. Developers probably hate that, right? Couldn't you just tell us what the code is so that we can just come and build to that code? And so I think it's a balance of doing what we can to update those and at the same time being flexible as developers come in to say, we get it. We know we've got a problem here. If you can bring us something we like, we'll adapt to that. I compliment you for being here. We love engaged citizens. You've been here now for an hour and 45 minutes. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being engaged. A special thanks to our guests that have come and answered so many questions for you. Who wants to do this again in a year and have another timeline that just hits a home run and a grand slam out? That's our goal. Thank you for being here.